Hi, friend.
Hello.
I am so excited for this conversation.
Me too. Second time on, second time on.
It's a limited club, second timers. So
I
thank you.
asked back because I love what you do and how you engage the conversation.
And I loved this book. Tell me how April Soto came to you.
April Soto. How did she come to me? It's hard to pinpoint the moment of inspiration, but she started emerging around 2012.
Hmm.
I was listening to Alanis Morissette's album, Jagged Little Pill.
Mhm.
The thing that I liked about that album was it had been around forever, but I wasn't that familiar with it. This this musician, she's very rock and roll. She's very rebellious. She's angry. She's horny. She's funny. She's curious about God. I liked all those things mixed together, and I think April Soto kind of bounced out of that album for me and became something quite different over the years as she developed.
How? How did that happen?
I started thinking about spirituality. It's one of the themes of my writing. Um, I read this book, Siddhartha, in high school.
Hmm.
And it's this Buddha story, basically. He leaves home, and that's not even part of the story. The story is his journey to go find God and the meaning of life. And he finds it. And I read it in high school.
Spoiler alert.
Yeah, sorry. Um, just like Jesus takes the quest, Buddha takes the quest, they find it, they get there. Um, and I was just jealous. I was like, I want my abuela to take off to get that. I want my mom to take off and get that. Now, as a woman, I want to take off and get that. But I have children to care for. I have elders to care for. I have to find God while like washing the dishes. I can't just split and leave the dirty work for someone else. So I started imagining April Soto, who does it. She's a young mom and she takes off. She leaves her domestic responsibilities in someone else's care. And she's like, I'm taking my quest.
In the least responsible way, too, right? She doesn't do what most moms would do. You're like, okay, here's the list of everything you need to know. All the groceries are in the fridge. If there's an emergency, this is who you call. She legitimately splits. And I think that is so unusual to us as women, especially to those of us who are caretakers, this idea of leaving and not looking back.
There's this notion of the good mom, the good daughter, the perfect mom, the perfect daughter. And we all have our own hangups and lists about that in our
Mm-hmm.
head and how we're striving for it. And April Soto, she's a young mom. She had her daughter when she was in high school. She's wicked smart, but did not finish high school because she was overwhelmed with her young motherhood. And I'm a Virgo. I'm a kind of organized person. Yeah, if I was going to take off, I'd probably, put some dinners portioned in the freezer first. April's version of being the good daughter, the good mother, is different. It's primarily around just keeping quiet, and she's not very good at it. She has a bad temper. She gets in these schoolyard fights and she just freaks out and takes off one day. So yeah, she's a mess. She's a total mess. She's irresponsible, and yet in some ways she has stifled all of her actual skills and talents just to keep it together. She lives in a multi-generational house, all women, great grandmother, grandmother. April Soto's the mother, and the youngest one, the daughter, and they're all kind of like performing this dutiful womanhood for each other. And it's an act of love, but it really stifles them.
Right. I love this question of what is our inheritance and what is it that we watch and learn from one another. You and I have talked about your process when you are writing plays. How did your process have to change in order to write a novel?
So this is my first piece. It's very strange. It's my first novel. I love that at 48, I can say, over 20 years into my writing career, I can say I'm doing a debut thing. I love that. Um, and even though my plays have all been works of fiction, they've all been grounded in an event in the community, a place in the community. And when I say the community, I'm talking about the Puerto Rican community in Philadelphia, where I came from, just a place rich with stories, rich with American history, fascinating characters, alive, amazing language. This piece does not have that kernel of, being birthed out of reality. Yet it feels like it's the rawest version of me that exists. Nothing in my life is like April Soto. But the fact that it's not based on something or someone real, I could just honestly be harder on her. I could be realer about her. I didn't have to respect someone's continually lived truth. So how the process differed from writing the play to the novel, very different medium, different technical things required. But the big difference is, like, I got so much rawer with April than I've let myself be with previous characters.
She's an anti-hero.
She's an anti-hero. I mean, you see her warts and all, dark side. You see she's nasty. She's, inappropriate. She's violent. She's messy. I love her. And I think the challenge is, can you still love her, reader, despite these tremendous flaws she has?
She's so young. Like, that was part of what popped off the page to me, is that in some ways, to have taken on so much adult experience and responsibility at such a young age, and in some ways be fully formed because of that responsibility. And at the same time, to have a piece of adolescence and childhood that you were never able to access because you had to grow up so fast.
Yes. So the book, the format of the book is, it's a letter. She writes to her daughter explaining, this is what happened those days I left you. Here's why I never came back. It's this 10-day journey from the day she got up. She stood up at the dinner table. Her daughter was 10. She said, I got to get the heck out of here. She runs. She goes on this journey for 10 days, the end of which, we know it's not a spoiler, she decides to stay away. And so the whole book is the letter she writes when her daughter turns 18, saying, you're about to be a woman, and I want you to know my story. You don't have to forgive me. You don't have to like me. You don't have to love me. But can you try to understand me? Because there might be some valuable stuff in here as you become a woman. And so the fun of it for me is, it's two parallel coming of ages. The mom telling, this is how I came of age, and the daughter who is about to come of age herself. What different kind of women will they become?
Did you go in knowing that the mechanism you were going to use was a letter from a mother to a daughter, or did that emerge later in the creative process? Because it really unlocks a lot. Like, I feel like once you realize that that is how you were going to formulate it, it must have come more easily.
April's voice is so intense. This girl's full on. She doesn't temper her thoughts, and I wanted to be in there with her. I wanted it to get really messy, really mucky. I wanted it to feel wild. And so I thought, well, the way to do that is just to put it from her point of view in the horse's mouth, so the letter format allowed me to do that. And the thing that's fun about it too is April's very smart. And so I got to harness her creativity, her intellect, but also just her basic instincts. She got a GED. She doesn't have a formal education. So I got to really play with voice, with the musicality of her language and her storytelling.
Where does her smarts come from?
There's different kinds of genius, and I like to play with this in my books. And April's got it. She's not an intellectual, but she's got an ability to look and see, right? So at the beginning of her letter, dear Noelle is her daughter, really the first thing that made me feel like I got to get the heck out of this place was your art show. And she's reminding her daughter in this letter of this art show in 4th grade. And the kids had to draw pictures of their family homes. And she gets really freaked out because Noelle's a good artist. It turns out she's really good with the Crayola crayons, but she's drawn almost a satirical image of all of the repressive components of their home. And April freaks out because she realizes my daughter can see. And I know what that is because I can see my elders. And it can be painful and punishing to see. And it can be liberating to see, and she doesn't want her daughter to see that anymore, So I think this kind of genius, these smarts that April has is her ability to see. And she doesn't want to squander that. She wants to see more of the world. She hasn't left Philadelphia in her life. She's 26 years old at the start of her journey, and she's not left Philadelphia. She's got a lot more to see.
One of the most provocative ideas you put forward in The White Hot is this idea of leaving being the most generous thing one can do. And I wonder if you've had the experience in your own life of leaving or having someone leave, whereas you look back on it, you think that is the best thing that possibly could have happened.
Wow, that's heavy. I think of my abuela leaving Puerto Rico to come to Philadelphia in a kind of renegade act of feminism because her marriage was not equal. The healthcare that one of her sick children needed was not adequate where she was. There's a tremendous leaving. I've never done anything like that. She's much braver than I was in that sense. My dad left. My parents separated when I was young. He went and kind of lived a suburban life after that, had a traditional nuclear family. And I was jealous of that. I didn't get that. I stayed with my mom in the city. But I could see if they had stayed in this kind of toxic relationship for me or for whatever purposes they might have, that would have been worse to be in a toxic situation. So there is a sense of like, if the building's burning, get out of it.
It's just funny because you, in some ways, are such a non-traditional person who has actually ended up living a pretty traditional life by some metrics, right? You are married, you have children, your children have sort of woven in and out of your artistry and your career. You've said to me in email, I can't go to this thing, I'm busy being a mom right now.
Yes.
And I wonder if that took work, if you see that as a corrective measure, and also if in some ways April Soto gave you an opportunity to live out the alternative, which is something that is much more raw. Were you ever jealous of April Soto?
No, because I had her and she gave that to me.
Yeah.
I wasn't jealous of her. I was very, very grateful to her. And I do feel like she saved me in some ways.
How?
She's the yin to my yang. As you mentioned, my life as I'm 48, I've lived a big life, but in some ways it's gotten smaller and smaller. I can only do a few things. I remember talking to you about this last time we spoke. I can be a mom. That's still on my to-do list every single day. I can be a wife. That's tied up with being a mom. And I can be a writer. That's pretty much it. And when I told you that last time we spoke, you said, what about friends? I said, I'm not a great friend. I'm trying to be a good friend. But the life has gotten smaller and the imagination has grown. Mm-hmm. I remember reading, as I started to write this book, Toni Morrison, reading Jamaica Kincaid, reading Elena Ferrante. And they're writing these women that they're pariahs. They're breaking the taboos. They're self-possessed enough to say, I'm going to live the life I want to live. And I don't care how anyone else feels about it. And it cost them a lot. And still onward they go. And that helped me. That modeled to me, stay connected with that bad girl inside you. It was bad girls who got us from Puerto Rico to Philadelphia. It was bad girls who in my mom's case, went and fought the Federation of Police so that they'd stop targeting Latina women in the community. That's a legacy I carry, but I'm working with my imagination, right? So to reconnect with that witch, that slut, that pariah, that outlier, it's important. They're important people in our communities. They help us draw boundaries. And so, yeah, April Soto gave that to me.
Could you have written this book when you were younger?
No. It just gets better with time. It just gets better with time. And that's the beautiful thing about having a first at 48 is I've lived a lot and I've learned a lot. But I have that excitement of something new in this book. I could not have, it's so silly. But when I was younger, I was still wanted to be good. I wanted to be the good daughter. I even wanted my rebellion to have artistic merit. You know what I mean? And it's like, there's some sex scenes in this book that I would have been too embarrassed to write when I was younger. April Soto talks about losing her virginity at a young age and basically behavior that would get her turned a slut. And she fesses up about it. She's pretty frank about it. And she's talking to her daughter. She's like, listen, daughter, by leaving you, I kind of forfeited the right to do the birds and bees talk with you. But maybe it's not too late. Let me tell you now some mistakes I made in my own sexual journey. How I would numb myself. How I would give myself over too easily. Or when I did, not enjoy that moment. Let me tell you what I've learned about pleasure. Younger me would have been too embarrassed to write that stuff.
I'm like so emo, and I don't know if it's just because it's you. Like every time, you're like witchy, so I feel like you bring that out in people. But I think part of the reason I magnetized to this storyline is because my best friend growing up was Puerto Rican, and her mom was 18 when she had her. And I don't know if Carmen would have ever thought that she was on a hero's journey. And I don't know that she would have thought that she was worthy of the place in the canon that you've provided. And I think that that's like part of the work. Like the last time we spoke, you talked to me about cultural records equality and how like that is, of all the social missions, the one you feel is yours. And I don't know what the question is, but I just want to reflect back at you that like of all of the incredible authors that you just, reflected back to me, Jamaica Kincaid and Elena Ferrante and Toni Morrison, this hasn't been where Latina literature has traditionally gone. Like we have not traditionally gone to the anti-hero. I think because there's such a reflection of us in American society as already being takers and anti-heroes that we have felt the need to say like, no, we are the heroes of our story. And no, we are excellent people. And we are not all of the things you say we are. And then doing that work of trying to express, the goodness of our community, we haven't had the luxury of saying, look, we're human and we have warts and imperfections and we too can be an anti-hero. Like that felt inherently subversive.
I mean, I'm like, April, come with me, April, and stand in the spotlight and be your messed up self, because you're gorgeous and you're riveting. And I mean gorgeous inside. In Sula, this Toni Morrison book that I returned to again and again and again writing this, Sula's, I don't know what language I'm allowed to use on this podcast, but whatever, she fucks her bestie's husband, okay? Sorry. Like, it's not cool. And she doesn't feel guilty about it. And years later, her best friend is like, why? Why did you do that? And Sula still doesn't see the fault, find the fault in it. Like she really doesn't understand these taboos. And she's dying when they're having this conversation. And she says, look, I don't understand about your rules and who cares about a husband? What good's a husband? But I'll tell you this, I sure did live in this world. I underlined that line. I sure did live in this world. I sure did live in this world. I said, damn, I want April Soto to do that. I want her to live in this world on her own terms, even if it causes some pain. That's an experiment I want to go on with her.
Do you feel like you live in this world?
I do, but I can be so hard on myself. You know, I do live in this world, but I don't forgive myself and I focus on too much the compromised ways I've done it.
Mm.
You know, you were talking about we have to be good. We have to be these good examples. And for 20 years, I wrote that. And in the Heights, it's like, how do I be the good daughter? How do I earn my place in my community? In Water by the Spoonful, which is a play I wrote, it's takes place in an online chat room for recovering addicts. It's how do I earn my place in this community amongst people who are trying to stay alive and clean one day at a time? It's all about how do I earn it? How do I earn it? And I did that for 20 years. And this one's
and you
different.
were rewarded. I mean, I think that's another important part of the story. You did it. You win a Tony. You did it. You win a Pulitzer. Like the fact that there was a feedback loop that was incentivizing the telling of that story is not unimportant.
Well, I don't need that stuff now because I got it. So I'm like, people say, you know, did that create more pressure? No, actually, now I can just do what I want to do. And this is rather than how do I find and earn my place in the community? This is, can I leave the community, even if it's a place and a source of love? That's a big, scary question. Even verbalizing that to you, a little bit of me goes, ooh, you know. But by the same token, see, this returns to my jealousy of the Buddha and my jealousy of Jesus. I just rewatched the finale of Mad Men. Love that show, right? Mm-hmm. Don Draper, so sexy, so iconoclastic. He's aspirational in the fact that he's left a trail of total disaster behind him in his domestic life. But he's still sexy because he left it all and he came up with the Coke ad, you know? And I wanted that. I was jealous of that. I said, let April Soto get that. Let her be the iconoclast. Let her be the bad girl.
When you look back at your old work, how do you see fear showing up in the writing?
Well, it's tricky because I came here and I told myself, don't diss your old writing because I can get into that loop. I can get into that loop where, like I said, I see its shortcomings and I forget I put my heart into each one of them. You know, I really did. I was afraid to disappoint the people in my community I was trying to honor. Full stop. That's the honest truth. You know, my track record was pretty good. I did disappoint them sometimes. That hurt like hell.
You mean the casting of In the Heights?
Casting of In the Heights, family issues with details in the writing. That was excruciating, you know, and I learned a lot from those things. So that was the fear. That was the fear, and it came to be passed at certain points too. But I'm less afraid now. First of all, I've learned a lot. You know, you learn techniques. You learn about the world as you grow. But I've also survived a lot too. So I feel like, okay, I can survive making mistakes. It's not easy though.
Very humbling. Very humbling.
It's very humbling. It's very humbling. And I guess the thing is, I reflect now. One of my favorite parts of my life as a playwright and being a playwright is you create these jobs. That's so cool. When I started casting my first play, we couldn't get enough Latinos to come in and audition for all the Latino roles. This was in 2002 or 2003 as I was casting a play called Yama Jazz Belly. I created more and more of those roles, more and more of those jobs as I was writing plays. Those are good roles. There weren't as many of them when I started. The landscape's really different now. The breadth of the talent pool is staggering. The last play I cast was the theatrical adaptation of My Broken Language, and the talent that came in for that, I mean, we could have cast 3 different productions of that play out of what came in. They would have all been top notch. That's amazing. I look back at that and I'm like, okay, I did it. Like I did what I set out to do. I contributed something. Did make some mistakes along the way. So I don't want to be too peaches and cream about it, but I feel clear on that record of what I did. But I was trying to make people proud. And that came from a very real place and historically a necessary and urgent place. Mm-hmm. Maybe I don't need to make anyone proud now. Maybe I can just be real and follow my imagination down some different paths.
What did I miss? Now I want to go on a quest. Although I think my husband probably wants to go on a quest too. Like part of it is
we all want to.
Life.
It's only natural. I think it's part of the heart's desires, that push and pull of individual self versus self in a social context, but like the guys got to do it. They got books, they got the Odyssey. They've been doing it forever. It's like our turn.
Quiara, thank you so much.
Thank you.